Good afternoon, YWCA viewers. I'm Kim Siciliano, the CEO at YWCA Northeastern New York, and I'm excited to host this special series 3, episode 3 of The Butterfly Effect, sponsored by KeyBank and Pursuit. KeyBank Foundation's mission is to support organizations and programs that prepare individuals for thriving futures. When people and organizations come together, great work gets done, and our entire region thrives. KeyBank thanks everyone at the YW for making a difference. Pursuit provides businesses with affordable loans and resources so that they can transform and grow. They are an Albany-based, community-focused lender, 100% invested in the success of their clients. If you are a business owner looking for funds to start, grow, or recover, you can learn more at www.pursuitlending.com. We cannot thank these two amazing businesses enough for their support, not only this month, but year round. This is an empowerment series where volunteer hosts interview inspiring women in our community. And look who we've got with us today. This is a very important day. Today, we want everybody to know to get out and vote, 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 vote. But we also have the president of the Schenectady City Council with us today, Miss Marion Porterfield. Welcome.
Hi, Kim. How are you? Thank you for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you. We are so excited to talk to you about what inspires you. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Relax. Get ready for all these questions. They're going to be thrown at you.
Okay.
Here we go. It's an important day in America.
Yes.
We know that. I'd love to kick things off by hearing you tell us a bit about yourself and your path to the city council.
Okay, absolutely. So a bit about myself. I grew up in Schenectady, attended elementary school, high school, college here, and did a lot of work in the community with my mother. My mother was a very, very involved in the community, a huge volunteer at so many organizations. And she thought it was important for her children to also be involved in the community, to give back basically to, or even beyond giving back, knowing what your community was about, knowing what there was out there to offer, getting to know other people beyond your immediate neighborhood. She really thought that was hugely important. And so as a result, I became a Girl Scout leader. I did different things in my church and just all around the community volunteering, because this was something that my mother inspired me to do, because she thought that this was important. You need to know and to participate in the city that you live in.
Okay.
So
that's wonderful, wonderful. And so how did you then take all that volunteerism and community engagement and get to the city council? How did that happen?
Okay, so that happened, of course, I told you a little bit about my background. And then as I got a little bit older, I was actually given an award by the city Democratic Committee for the work that I was doing in the community. And I was like, wow, here's another place that I can volunteer and I can do some things. So I became what's called a committee person, which, goes out there, helps other people get elected, helps the community know about voting and the importance and all of that. So I became a committee person. And I also, during that time, was also still very involved in my community. So I would go to the city council meetings and advocate for things that I felt needed to happen. And I felt there really wasn't a good response to that. So there wasn't enough community voice at the table. That's what I felt. So as time went on and there became an opportunity, I threw my hat in the ring. And they didn't throw it back.
That was how long ago? When did you throw it?
That was over 10 years ago. It's about 10 and a half years ago that I actually decided to run for the very first time. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did you win the very first time, Marion?
So I won the very first time I was elected, but I need to back up a little bit because the year prior, there's like an interview process and it's like, who's going to run? And so someone else was chosen to run. And so I was still in that supporting role where I was helping people get elected.
Okay.
And so, the way politics work, you you expect certain outcomes.
Okay.
And then, that I would have gotten appointed to a seat that would have been vacant as a result of that particular election in that year.
Okay.
However, it did not turn out like that. And so therefore, we're in a position like, who's going to get appointed to that seat? So it took a few months. So I initially got appointed to the seat in 2012.
Okay.
And then in 2012, I also had to run in a special election.
Okay.
A
Thank you.
primary first and then a special election.
Okay, so thank you very much for clarifying that because I think it's important for people to understand. But 10 plus years is an amazing achievement in Schenectady as part of the city council. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So who inspired you? You talked a little bit about your mom. Who inspired you outside of your mom, and talk a little bit more about that and
Right.
how that has
So
changed you and made you the person you are.
I have to say that I still have to talk a lot about my mother. She was
Sure.
like very much the inspiration for me. You know, she just felt her children, she needed her children to do better in life than she did. So she was a huge inspiration for me.
Okay.
And even though we're kind of almost in the same age category, Oprah Winfrey is also a huge inspiration. I was like, here's this woman who came, you know, was a newscaster and then decided that she could do whatever it is she chose to do. And she, you know, became a millionaire as a result of it. So I think she inspired a lot of women, especially a lot of women of color, that you
Absolutely.
can do whatever it is that you want to do.
Mhm. Okay.
And in history, Mary McLeod Bethune was someone
Mhm.
that inspired me as well. So
Absolutely.
that, and I also have an older sister who was an inspiration to me. She was here; she doesn't live here, but she was here visiting once, and I was doing something, and it was a speaking engagement,
Okay.
and so she said to me, you know what, you're really a very good speaker. And so, you know, that was just like, sometimes you just need that reinforcement. And it was really nice to be able to hear that
Mhm.
from her. So, and I'm inspired by what she's done. She's, you know, 20-year military JAG and all of that. So, yeah. So,
Hey, maybe we need to have her on here too.
well, she
Talk
doesn't live in
about
the state any longer.
well, we can definitely do a virtual conversation,
Okay. All
right? I
right.
mean, that's amazing. So, okay,
Yeah.
great. So you talk about your older sister. Come on, you got to tell me a story about like, you know, maybe the two of you when you didn't quite get along. Like, you got anything good that you can share?
Like, so I have to tell you, my sister, um, well, what's the one thing? Okay, my sister was very disciplined, always was, still is. And so I think the one thing that my other sister and I, well, there's three of us,
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to sneak out to a dance, and she turned us in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
that's
so was there any you know, backlash towards her turning you in at that point?
no, we were upset with her, wouldn't talk with her for a while, but understood later the importance of listening to what my mother said, because she told us we couldn't go.
Mhm.
And my sister's, her, it was really that she was concerned that nothing happened to us.
Okay.
So
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 sisterly
yeah.
love.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right, we'll go with that. So who was your mentor? Out of all these people you've just talked to me about, did you have a specific person or a completely different person that really mentored you to be who you are today?
So I think that I've had multiple mentors, all the people that I've listed, and also someone formerly worked with, who was Police Chief Michael Gerasi.
Mm,
He was the former police chief here in the city of Schenectady. And I considered him a really wonderful mentor as
okay.
well. At the time, I was working in a community based program. And he was another one that said, you know, you can really do this. And also, there was a woman that I worked with. Her name was Linda Conklin.
Mhm.
I worked for this county for a while, and she was the person that I worked under. And she was another person who said, you know, you are capable of doing anything that you put your mind to. So all of these people over the years, I consider as mentors. No one person. There were many people that poured into my life to help me become the person that I am, because people come from different perspectives, different
Mhm.
backgrounds. And I think all of that's important. And I've had exposure to all of that. So
Mhm.
all of those people have been mentors to me. Mhm.
Wonderful. So I know this is a silly question being the president of the city council, but
Uh-huh.
why is it important for community members to vote?
Not a silly question, because I think that sometimes people don't understand the importance of voting, and they only think about the presidential election or state offices, and not about local politics. It's
Mhm.
important for people to vote on all of those levels that I just mentioned, but especially what's being done locally, um, because local is what impacts your life on a daily basis. And
Absolutely.
in addition to that, you can you can reach out to and generally get in touch with your local electeds, right?
Correct.
And sometimes you can see them in the supermarket, which often happens for me,
Yeah.
or at the coffee shop. So it's important for people to get out, to make sure that they vote. Not only do they vote, that they pay attention to who they're voting for, and make sure that the people that they're voting for represent their values and what they want to see happen, and that they have a listening ear, that they are open to what people have to say. And we understand that everyone's not going to agree with everything all of the time. That just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And it means that somebody's not thinking if you're like 100% in agreement all the time, because we have different ideas. But it's important that people vote, because if not, here's what I feel like: if you don't vote, then you've allowed someone else to make decisions about your life, when you could have very well been involved in making those decisions. So
Good
it's important.
point.
It's definitely, and it's good. People have to get out almost as soon as they're able to register. I suggest that people do, and make their voice heard. And even before they're able to register, because some work with young people sometimes, and I often say to them, I know you're not eligible to vote yet, but you have to pay attention to what's going on. And when you are ready to vote, you'll know how to vote, you'll know the process, you'll know about candidates running, whether they're sincere, and all of those things. So it's all of those things that it's important for people to get out and vote, because they're making a difference, and deciding not to vote is a decision.
Right? You have a choice.
You have a choice. And so choosing to participate in this democratic process. And the other part of it, I think, as I was thinking about this, is that there was a time when women couldn't vote.
Right.
There was a time when people of color couldn't vote.
Right.
So now we can, and we should definitely take advantage of it. And if it wasn't important, there wouldn't be people who were trying to stop people from doing it.
That is a great commentary on why we need people to get out and vote and be a part of the decisions that are made in our communities and throughout the nation, right?
Yes,
you're a part of all of it when you do that.
Exactly. Definitely.
Great.
Yes.
Great answer. Okay. So let's talk about, you are a woman. So how does your identity as a woman of color, play a role in your decision-making on the council, in your job? How does that impact the work you're doing in the community?
Okay. So as a woman of color, or a person of color, of course, we all bring our life's experiences with us. So it impacts it in terms of, as we look at people who are maybe traditionally marginalized. And it doesn't just mean people of color. It doesn't just mean women. Sometimes it's poor people. So those things, and having with my background and my ethnicity and my lived experience, allows me to have a greater sense of compassion, I'm going to say, in terms of dealing with people, and realizing that everyone's voice needs to be heard, regardless of what they look like, regardless of where they come from. So having had experiences that were less than pleasant as a woman of color, I'm very well aware of making sure that other people are not put in that position, regardless of the fact they don't have to look like me or identify with me in any way on those levels. But I need to understand that they're important as well, regardless of our differences. So that for me is part of it, that I realize and accept other people's differences.
Right.
And so, even if we don't have the same ideology, they have a right to believe and think how they think. And so therefore it's easier for me to be open to that.
Okay. Great answer. Thank you. Based on what you know now, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self, as you smile? You already got something ready. What do you got?
Well, believe it or not, I would have started younger. Oh yeah, I would have started younger. That's why I really encourage young people to get involved. I would have started much younger to be politically involved, just because I think that representation matters. I know the representation matters.
I know that, right.
Let me just give you an example that kind of plays into it. But so when I was younger, and my mother would buy dolls for us, I remember that there weren't many dolls that looked like me. And my sister, she got my sister a doll, which was like at that time was like a big deal. It was like a 3 foot tall doll.
Was it the Chrissy doll, right? The Chrissy doll was like 3 feet tall.
Yeah. I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was a doll of color.
Oh,
that, yes. That,
right
I don't know where, Yeah, I don't know where my mother found it, but that resonated with me. Like, oh my gosh, she looks like me. So, you know, that for me is one of the reasons that that I do what I do. And let me see, let's see. And if at 21,
Yeah.
yes, I would have gotten more involved. I would have been more involved at the local level, and I probably would have loved to have traveled, which I see some young people doing today, to
Yes.
actually go get involved in other elections around the country.
Mm.
So I definitely would have done that, and it's one of the reasons that I also make sure that in terms of recruiting young people, I recruit young people to also run for office because we have something that we need: succession planning.
Mm.
I know that there are many people who sit in their seats for years and years, and I mean, no, I should say decades and decades. But I
Mhm.
think it's important that we have succession planning for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that we have a voice from a certain demographic. That's
Mhm.
important to have. So my 21-year-old self would have gotten involved much
Yeah.
earlier in the process. But I'm
Mm.
glad I'm here now.
Well, we are too. We are too. So, what do you tell other women who are saying, but, and they always have something dot 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 they're putting after reaching for their goals, trying to achieve their dreams? What do you say to other women?
I say that whatever you put your mind to is possible, and surround yourself with supportive people.
Mm.
Surround yourself with people who are going to tell you that you can do it, and not the naysayers, because they're going to be there and they're going to come. But surround yourself with people that support you in ways that, if it, because it's about childcare, if it's about whatever it is that you need help with,
Mhm.
um, just managing overall, surround yourself with those people can help you get there, because that's what you really need. Because no goal that anyone has ever reached is something that they reached on their own.
By themselves, right? It
Right,
always takes
exactly.
more than just you.
It does. And so you really need a supportive group of people who love you and who also tell you the truth. Because sometimes
No.
the decision that you make may not be the best decision.
Mhm.
And you need someone who loves you enough who says, that is really not the right decision right now.
Great.
And so maybe you shouldn't do that. So you need to surround yourself with those kind of people.
Great,
Absolutely.
great answer.
Mhm.
So what interview question have you never been asked before? Is there anything that you're like, I've always wanted to tell somebody this or answer that question, but nobody's ever asked me this about myself? I know one thing that I know about you from the fashion show.
It's really funny you should ask that, because I feel like people ask everything when you're running for office. You want to be involved. They ask everything from your background to your, like, everything. It's
What
like
kind of
just
coffee you drink? What kind of toothpaste you use?
oh, okay. So one thing that anybody ever asked me, that I don't think anybody has ever asked me, like, what do I love about Schenectady? I don't
Oh,
think so.
come on now. Somebody must have, but I'm going to ask it.
Yeah.
What is it about Schenectady that draws you in, that keeps you engaged? Tell me.
So what I love about Schenectady is, first of all, I moved here when I was very, very young from Albany, and I loved where we lived. We lived in Woodlawn, and what I love about it is the various neighborhoods, and I love that people are very engaging, and I love the diversity that we have in our
Mhm.
city. So many cultures, so many backgrounds. I mean, in our high school, they speak over 100 languages that I
Oh,
understand.
wow.
So all of those things make me really love Schenectady, and I love that it's basically on the comeback. I remember when downtown was very different.
Absolutely.
And
I've been here for 22 years myself, and I remember when I came here in 2001, walking down the street going, "Oh my goodness, there's so much to be done." And now I walk down the street and say, "There's so much I want to do." Right? I want to go there. I want to stop there. I want to eat there. I want to go there. Um,
right,
so I agree with you. Yeah.
yes. And I love that there's places that people who need help can go. I
Mhm.
think that's very important, for folks who, need a helping hand. So I appreciate all of those things, about Schenectady, and that
Okay.
to me, it seems to be getting better and better.
It does. It does. And you're part of that change. And the
Mhm.
YW is too.
Yeah,
Next year we
absolutely.
celebrate 135 years here, Marion. So
Wow.
yeah,
Oh,
135 years.
and did you know that I worked for the Y at one time?
I did not know. When did you work
I
for the YW?
We're going back, wow, lots of years.
I know you were on our board, right? You were a
I
board
was on
member.
the board, but before that, I worked in one of the women's shelters.
Wow. I
Yeah.
did not know that as a case
When
manager.
Okay, no, I don't even know what my role was and there was a woman named, oh my gosh, I can't even remember her name. Kathy. Do you remember Kathy?
I don't remember Kathy, but Joanne Rafalik
Yes.
was also started at the shelter before
Yes.
she moved into administration here.
Right.
So you worked with Joanne when she was working in the shelter too.
Right.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so a YW woman through and through. Once
Yes.
a YW woman, always a YW woman.
I'll take it.
And you know that we have Miss New York coming here. Do you know that? We already talked about this.
Yes,
to be on
you
a
did tell me
float
that. Yes.
and wondering if Marion would join us at some point during the parade. So just keep that in mind.
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. Couple more questions that I want to
Yeah.
just finally get to the real meat of who Marion is. What
Okay.
is unique to you? A special talent? What excites you? Something that nobody knows about you or that you do in your own personal time that would be something you want to share?
Something that nobody knows about. Well, you know, so does that really count?
I do
The-
know, but
I-
go ahead, shout it out.
I
Come
shared
on.
with you. It's kind of like fun to talk about, actually. So I was crowned Miss Black Bicentennial Queen of the Capital Region, not just of Schenectady. It was a pageant that actually was held in Albany.
Mm-hmm.
So won that pageant, and also during that time, I don't know if I told you that. Also, the women that I was running with chose me as Miss Congeniality. So they thought that I was just caring and helpful to everyone there. So I thought that was great. It's always good when your peers
Yes,
support you.
choose you.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
who is supportive and kind and really, embraces the feeling of teamwork and camaraderie and community.
Yes.
That's great. And then what year was that, Marion?
1976.
And I also know that you won a BPW award too.
I did. New careerist.
New careerist.
Right.
And you are a woman of achievement, I believe, with the YW.
Yes, I am. So the
You
Y.
are. You're in the Hall of Fame at the YW.
Well, the Y
wow.
does a really good job of reaching bringing women forward who are doing things in the community,
Right.
and I also appreciate the unsung heroine part.
Absolutely. My
as
goodness.
well.
We're just checking off all of these accolades that we're sharing with the community. Everybody, we've got a superstar with us today.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So, what is the best advice you have ever received from anyone?
The best advice I've ever received from anyone. I'm going to say this. I think the best advice I've ever received when anyone, I'm a woman of faith, is that pray about everything. That is, and that is advice that I use to this day.
And does it work for you?
It totally works for me.
Really?
Yes.
Amazing.
100%.
I mean, you have to have faith, no matter what you believe in, who you believe in. You have to have faith in something in order to have some self-awareness, correct?
Yes.
Like, so to say, this is where I would like to be, but I need to give it up. I need to give it to somebody else to help me get through and make a decision, maybe.
Exactly. Make a decision. And all of that. And the other part of it, it also, for me anyway, allows me to treat people who don't treat me well necessarily, to still treat them with kindness.
So giving some grace and
yes,
not always thinking it's about us, but maybe it's something going on in their life.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Good advice. And what would you say to community members who don't feel like their vote counts today? Okay. We talked a little bit about this, but what about somebody says, I don't vote. I just don't think it makes a difference. What are your words to encourage them to not have that mindset?
So my words say, well, why don't you? I asked, first of all, why don't you vote?
Okay.
Well, I don't think it matters. But and then I asked them, do you think that you matter? Because if you think that you matter, then you have to understand that your vote matters, because what you are saying, you are a decision maker for your community. That makes you a very important person to be that decision maker for your community. So if you want to see things that are different, if you don't like the way things are right now, and you want to be involved and be part of that, then you have to, as a decision maker, have to participate.
Excellent. Good answer.
Otherwise, you've said, you've left it up to someone else to make important decisions for your life.
And then once the decision is made, if you have not been part of that decision making, you really don't get a chance to have a voice then at that point, because now the work is being done around you and not with you.
Exactly. Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
So how do we promote hope in a society that faces such big scale challenges right now? I mean, talk a little bit about your role as city council president in Schenectady, and how you take on those challenges and prioritize and work within the community of Schenectady.
Hmm. So how do you give people hope?
Yeah,
So I believe part of people, the way you give people hope is to present yourself in a very positive manner. I think that's important. And I don't mean just when you're I'm at city council or official meetings, but I mean walking down the street. I
sure.
mean stopping to get coffee. You have to let people know that the people that represent you are people who exude confidence, who exude friendliness, who realize that they may be they're an elected person, and perhaps you're not. However, we're all still people at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So you'd have to treat people with love and kindness,
Okay.
because that's what draws people to you, and they realize. I mean, I have to tell you that I go to get my coffee at a certain place,
Okay.
and for a long time people didn't know who I was. I was just
Mhm.
the lady that came in and got their coffee and just had fun with them and all of that, just laughing and joking and customers and all that. So I don't know, there's an article in the paper. And then they realized who I was. They were like, oh, I never knew that about you. I didn't want to present myself like, hey, I'm really this very important person.
Mhm.
No, I'm just the lady here getting my coffee. And then you got to know me as the person.
The person. Yeah.
And then you were happy that I was in the role that I was in, but you got to know me as the person, because you realized I was just a person who was, interacting with you and giving you the respect that you deserved, and in your role
Right.
as a person that was working there.
So don't let your title lead the way. Let the
No,
person who you are lead the way, and then people will follow and choose to be around you because of who you are, not
right.
because of Council President Marion Porterfield.
Exactly. And people are in politics for different reasons. Some people are in it for the power, and some people are in it for the people. And I'm in it for the people.
And I think that's very evident in the work that you're doing and keeping the community as your focus, right? It becomes a work of love, and a work from the heart. And that's very evident when you are working within our community. So
Thank
I'm so
you.
happy that you're part of the city council as president and the city of Schenectady. Um, Last question.
Yes.
Anything else you want us to know? Anything else you want to shout out today on election day when decisions are being made? We'd
Mm.
love to hear some final parting words.
Right. Well, if you haven't voted, you have till 9 p.m. So get out there and vote. And not only should you vote, take a friend, call a neighbor, get out there and make your voice heard. I understand that sometimes the midterm elections aren't where people get out and vote, but
Right.
it's important that you vote in every single election, because it makes a difference. It impacts your life on many levels. So it's important to vote. And also, I forgot to add one thing,
Sure.
one person who I also see as a mentor, and that's Congressman John Lewis. And I've been reading his.
And how has he been a mentor to you?
So he's been a mentor because he started out kind of like me being very active in the community, and him going on to be a very serious activist, as we know.
Right.
And so he translated that activism into politics, which I
Right.
feel is sort of like kind of the path I've taken as well.
And it exudes in the work that he is doing within the community. You can see it. You see it there, right?
Exactly.
You see it's real. It's tangible. It's
Right.
something you can touch and say that comes straight through activism and advocacy and
Yeah.
being a social and racial justice, warrior into
Yes.
the politics, and brings it straight to where people can truly make a difference in their community.
Absolutely. You said perfectly. So I'm reading several. He's written several books, as you know. So I'm reading a couple of the books that he's written, and I've also given those books to the young people that I've recruited who are now in office, both at the
Right.
county level and the city level, because
Mhm.
I want them to be inspired as well. Because John Lewis started at a very young age,
Yes.
and so just saying, look what he was able to accomplish.
Mhm.
It's possible. and you can do it too. So it's yeah, he's one of my mentors. Never, I met him one time actually.
Really?
Yeah, years
What was
ago in
that like?
Albany. It was great. Of course, they were hustling through the crowd, but he and
Yeah.
Congressman Paul Tonko came to
Uh-huh.
a church in Albany,
Okay.
so I had an opportunity to meet him
That's
briefly.
exciting.
It was exciting. It was.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Marion, it has been a true pleasure to meet and speak with you and talk with you. I just want to thank you again for taking time out on this election day to be here with the YW and to welcome you back at any point. We'd love to
Okay.
have you in a bunch of different events and participating with us in the work that we do here. I have to do one last sentence
Okay.
is saying that we encourage viewers to check in on every Tuesday and Thursday at noon because we have different hosts and guests on the Butterfly Effect every week. So Marion, thank you again. We appreciate you and thank you for everything you've done in our community.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Take care.